It's me, Mario!
Super Mario 64 changed my life. Like I mentioned in my Nintendo Switch 2 video, I am an avid gamer. What do you do in your free time? People ask, and the answer is just video games. I do have a distinct memory of saying video games are for losers when I was a young child, though, but it just turned out that I hadn't been exposed to the right ones. Come 1998, my cousin gets an N64 and Mario 64 with it, and it was one of the biggest eureka moments of my life. Welcome back to Left Below. Gonna try something breezy this time. So as some guy once said, let's-a go. Since Mario 64 was so important to me, it was natural that the Super Mario movie... Okay, fine. It was the aesthetics of Mario that really pulled me in. The colors, the music, these worlds of colorful characters that I could explore on my own. It wasn't really about the gameplay, which I was pretty bad at for a while. That wasn't the selling point for me. What overawed me about Mario 64 was not what was overawing veteran gamers, this complete redefinition of action games for the new 3D era. That was something I came to appreciate about the game in hindsight. What was right there for me was the metal cap, the plesiosaur, that freaking piano in Big Boo's haunt, wondering what happened to Wiggler after he shrunk down and fell through the gap in the wire mesh, Yoshi on the roof and hearing him up there before you got 120 stars. Even now, 26 years after getting the game for the first time, some quotes stick with me, like the whatever the hell at the bottom of the pyramid. We no like light. Ooh. We no like intruders. Point is, it really gripped me. And I got into it around the first time Mario had an official voice, but long after the cartoon, the Super Show, or that amazingly gonzo movie had been relevant. The world of Mario 64 was a world where my imagination could run free, unconstrained by any supplemental media that over-explained things and put boundaries on my ideas. As I got older and I played more Mario games, my imagination continued to try and connect them together, or explain more of the magic within the games. The worlds in Mario 64 were created by the power of the stars in my mind, with Bowser's real goal being to generate whole armies that could then flood out into the real world. The same effect worked to create those weird subspace levels in Super Mario Sunshine, but since those were all created by Bowser Jr., they all have that child's toy box motif. Most everything evil in Mario Sunshine was created by the magic paintbrush, hence why it was weak to water and why even the more solid enemies devolved into goo or sand upon defeat. I'll note that I was never that curious about Il Piantissimo. I was amused by him, sure, but I took him at face value as a weird little anti-Mario who liked parkour and never put much thought into how he fit in with everything. Via Super Mario Bros. Deluxe and the Mario Advance games, I got a good overview of Mario history as well, and could start to put a picture of an entire fantasy world together. I recall at one point mapping out where all the tracks in Mario Kart 64 and Double Dash would be in this world too. This process of world building with Mario stopped around the time of New Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Galaxy. I would like to say it stopped because I was an adult by then. My 18th birthday was the same week as Metroid Prime 3's release date, but that's only partially true. More that I was deep in Naruto and enamored with the Fire Emblem Ike games at the time, so my imaginary energies were elsewhere. I vaguely recalled this interview that I dug up while writing the script, where Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka spoke with Dan Reichert of Game Informer in 2012. The interview kind of took the wind out of my Super Mario myth-making. To quote, "Time and again, Bowser kidnaps Peach. Why do Mario and Peach still race go-karts and play tennis with him?" Answer: if you're familiar with things like Popeye and some of the old comic characters, you would oftentimes see this cast of characters that takes on different roles depending on the comic or cartoon. They might be businessmen in one or a pirate in another. Depending on the story that was being told, they would change roles. So to a certain degree, I look at our characters in a similar way and feel that they can take on different roles in different games. It's more like they're one big family, or maybe a troupe of actors. This kind of took the wind out of my sails entirely on lore speculation vis-a-vis Mario. They were a cast of characters, archetypes, pulled into whatever scenario the game called for. So long as they didn't have their basic roles overwritten, like making Peach a queen or non-royalty, say, then you could slot the recurring characters and the original characters for a new game together however you wanted, just like how Yosemite Sam could be a bandit, a sheik, or a Confederate soldier. Mario was less a canon and more a toolbox. Instead of building out a legendarium over the years, Nintendo simply added more tools to create more complex combinations. In between 2012 and the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 2023, though, there was one moment where my imagination was pulled back into the world of Mario. I forget where I first saw this. There's a version of it on the fandom wikia for Nintendo. If you search it here on YouTube, you'll probably find one. But damn it, I'm gonna put my own 2 cents in and take a detour for the Super Mario timeline. First in the line is Yoshi's Island, telling the story of the birth, stork delivery, something of Mario and Luigi, and baby Bowser's attempt to capture them. Something happens, they end up growing up either in Brooklyn or New Donk City. I'm gonna go with Brooklyn for reasons I'll get into later. Mario encounters the rogue ape Donkey Kong, who kidnaps his friend Pauline. Then Donkey Kong Jr. and Donkey Kong 3, Mario gets into and out of the exotic animal trade. Mario Bros. Mario and Luigi's first encounter with the weird world they came from as a side effect of Bowser's first attack on the Mushroom Kingdom backs up into the Brooklyn sewers. Then Mario pivots to work in demolition for a bit before they find out where the weirdness was coming from. A whole other world on the other side of the pipes. Super Mario Bros. Then Mario has a nightmare, one that may or may not have been sent by Bowser, involving the Land of Dreams called Subcon. Super Mario 2 USA. Super Mario Bros. 3, Bowser's Revenge in a Bigger World. Mario gets a castle after this one. Super Mario Land. A random alien attacks the far-off land of Sarasa Land, and Mario leaves his castle to go save the day. Super Mario Land 2. Wario hired that alien, Tatanga, to distract Mario so he could capture his castle. Super Mario World. Vacation to Dinosaur Land where they meet Yoshi again. Mario 64. Bowser captures Peach's castle and tries to use its Power Star to spawn an army. Mario Sunshine. Another friggin' vacation. Bowser Jr. appears and claims to be Peach's son. Then you jump straight to Mario Galaxy, and that's where the whole thing pivots. At the end of Galaxy, Bowser's Galaxy Reactor destroys the entire universe, but Rosalina intervenes with the Lumas and resets everything to a universe that is the same but also not. Nintendo stole this from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6. That's where you restart with Timeline B. Yoshi's Island 2 and Yoshi's New Island. I haven't played New Island, but I think timey-wimey fuckery is involved, so this one might sit at like the nexus of the two lines. The critical difference is in this world, Mario and Luigi grew up in the Mushroom World, possibly in New Donk City, and knew everyone as babies. All the new Super Mario Bros. Games run and do so kind of parallel to the events of the main line. New Super Mario Bros. Is to Mario Bros. 1. The Wii and Wii U games in a similar position to World and kind of 64. New Super Mario Bros. 2 and Super Mario 3D Land both kind of parallel Mario Bros. 3, the former because it reintroduces the Koopalings and the latter because of its emphasis on the Tanuki suit. Super Mario Galaxy 2 goes in this spot on the line, mirroring the events of Galaxy 1, but without a universe-ending catastrophe at the end. Time rolls forward, and you get Rosalina joining the main crew in Super Mario 3D World, and then Bowser's Fury following right off that. Then you have Super Mario Odyssey, and finally Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which is notably the first non-spin-off appearance of Daisy in the new timeline, so maybe the Flower Kingdom is tied to Sarasa Land in some way. Anyway, the Super Mario Bros. Movie from 2023, part of a new initiative of Nintendo's to truly go multimedia again for the first time since the 1980s. And good time as any to note that the Pokemon Company has a weird corporate relationship with Nintendo proper, so Pokemon's brand management strategy has always been its own thing. Nintendo pursued the film's development with their trademark caution, including having Shigeru Miyamoto provide significant creative oversight since he'd kind of been booted upstairs anyway from actual game development after the Wii DS generation. As far as I can remember, there were only 2 points of trepidation during the film's development. The first was the selection of Illumination Studios, the animation studio that gave the baby boomers their favorite slop characters via the Minions. It's a studio that's never really been known for reaching for the stars in terms of their creative output. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the original Despicable Me is their most acclaimed work at 80% fresh. And while 80% is a solid score, the Minions are about the only thing people really remember from Despicable Me. They're a studio capable of solid and profitable work, and one that isn't too ambitious. The Mario movie was never going to be a grand star, but it was also never in real danger of being a poison mushroom flop either. The other problem was Chris Pratt, and that also turned out to be kind of nothing. Pratt's career arc is funny because he would have been a pretty uncontroversial choice for Mario if the film had been made 5 years earlier and he was still in his Andy Dwyer / early Star-Lord phase, before he descended into his current frictionlessly inoffensive action star phase. That said, his Mario voice was fine. He puts enough of a spin on it that it's not another phone-it-in celebrity voice job, even if it could have been more spirited, but the accent also isn't overwrought or distracting. That gets to what the movie did right, and the rest of the voice cast is part of that. Some actors I uncritically stan, like Anya Taylor-Joy and Charlie Day, alongside committed A-list character actors like Black, Key, and Rogan. The music was great except for the needle drops, which were the only point where you could see the shadow of old shames in animated adaptations loom, where the adaptation is ashamed of its source material and leans on bland mass culture crutches to get by. It seemed particularly silly because Mario music has often been feated, especially in the post-Mario Galaxy era where Nintendo brought full orchestral talent to bear. The other design choices of the movie were also great and really brought forward the spirit of Mario, including the spirit that hooked me 28 years ago. The world built by Nintendo and Illumination for the film runs the gamut of upbeat, bright, cartoony venues, fiery, foreboding hellscapes, and areas of quiet beauty and majesty. Crucially, though, this world wasn't over-explained. Peach's origin is left unclear, and she states that there are a lot of galaxies out there, not merely an obvious reference to Mario Galaxy and what will come in the second movie, but a general nod to the vastness of the world they inhabit. The film's action sequences are also astutely evocative of the thrill of playing the games, both 2D and 3D. I thought that the Brooklyn sequences were largely a drag on the overall movie, but that first chase sequence through the city sells the viewer on the parkour essence of 2D Mario. The later training sequence with Mario and Peach felt a lot like the 3D games and putting a refreshing spin on the training montage, relating it to the autodidactic feeling of an action platformer, failing, learning, and growing as you go. A few of the characters were very well thought out as well. Peach, Luigi, and Bowser stand out, and not only because they're the best voice performances. Peach threads the needle that developers have been trying to thread for her as far back as Mario RPG and Paper Mario, of not having the power to stand up to Bowser quite on her own, but of not being a passive prize to be won either. Some of the usual fandom menace types tried to make hay of her being a girl boss, of wielding a weapon, or not always being in her gothic Lolita-style gown, and it's like, you're 15 to 22 years too late here, buds. Either for her non-dress outfits in Mario Sports spin-offs and the kart games, or for her kicking ass with the best of them since Super Smash Bros. Melee. Yeah, that's reaching for something to gripe about. Luigi also threaded a needle that Nintendo's been looking for since 2001 in Luigi's Mansion, trying to find something to distinguish his character from Mario, and doing so by following on his cowardly lion persona, of being somebody who's a scaredy cat type who can nevertheless step up and kick ass when the time is right. Bowser, meanwhile, perfectly balances the character's history of being both menacing and pathetic, hopelessly lovesick for Peach and occasionally incompetent, but at other times genuinely terrifying, like the dichotomy in the Mario 3D World Switch remake. Go from fighting Kitty Cat Meowser to the Shin Godzilla-esque Bowser of Bowser's Fury. It's the villain who destroyed the universe and galaxy and fell flat on his face being rejected by Peach in Odyssey. It's good stuff. These are all things I felt when I watched the movie. I remember because I recorded them in chatting with my friends about the experience. But then the other thing I remember is how quickly I forgot. How the movie just kind of ran like sand out of my memory, like a lot of the more mediocre things I watch or play nowadays might. Here's a film that made a great effort at adapting a franchise that's been life-changing for me. Laser-targeted nostalgia that hit a lot more than it missed. But it was weightless and near void of emotional impact. Why? What was the Mario movie missing? The most obvious place to look at is the plot. There's nothing wrong with the high concept. It's an isekai story where Mario and Luigi are disaffected with their lives in Brooklyn and inject themselves into a conflict in a magical world and come out the other side with new friends and a new place to belong. Taken by that standard, it's a much richer story than most Mario games, where Sunshine and Galaxy 1 are probably the most complex in terms of Bowser's plot and how Mario works against it. Even Odyssey is just a more elaborate version of the OG Super Mario Bros., Mario giving chase and finding he's always one step behind where the princess is now. Dig a little deeper and it gets dicier, though. The characters are all pretty strongly defined except for Mario himself, who's just kind of a walking I want song throughout the film. Luigi has to overcome his fear, Bowser's very real ambitions get derailed by how down bad he is for Peach. Peach struggles with her unclear origins versus her very clear duty to her people. Then there's Donkey Kong, who's just dealing with daddy issues, I guess. And no, he was one of the other drawbacks for the movie. Each of these character arcs are fine on their own, except for Donkey Kong's again, which comes across like a conflict ball, a case where a character is just given an arbitrary reason to be a problem in a way that kind of sticks out from the rest of the characters. Mario's is a bit bland and unsatisfying, but again, it's a Mario movie, and his motivations across games are usually almost purely reactive. I can forgive the movie for feeling a little busy. That's the problem of ensemble cast. Flaccid character arcs are also apparently a recurring theme in Illumination films, according to this video by the channel Movies with Mark on the Minions. Despicable Me, again, their highest rated set of films, has never been much for character development, so if anything we should count ourselves lucky that we got as good as we did in the Mario Bros. Movie. Another line of thought is the question of taking classic cartoon characters and setting them in a conventional setting that is stable across works. Per the Game Informer interview from before, Mario and his friends exist as an ensemble of archetypes who can be slotted into whatever scenarios necessary for the game Nintendo wants to make. They are not characters that exist with any kind of continuity, just like the Looney Tunes, which brings me back several years to a Patrick Willems video discussing why making that change for Looney Tunes for Space Jam was a bad creative choice. I'm linking that video here, but for the purpose of time, Willems maintains that Space Jam changing the Looney Tunes from an ensemble cast, fit for whatever comedic purpose, into a static cast of characters living in a parallel world, self-aware that they are cartoon characters and with continuous interactions with each other, sucked the looniness right out of the film. I don't think that the Mario movie suffers from that overmuch. This might change once I've seen the second movie, which might happen by the time this video gets out. But this video is about the first film. And like I said earlier, the film did better than I expected in terms of putting a Mario world with Mario lore together. But Willems' critique does kind of point me in the right direction to what I think is missing here. Space Jam takes the broad potential of the Looney Tunes and unceremoniously flattens it. A static cast in a static, if fantastical, world. The Mario Bros. Movie does the same thing. It takes the potential and flattens it. The difference is that I kind of like the shape that it was flattened into. I struggle to think how the movie could easily be made better. The static world established from the versatile potential of the Mario canon toolbox is an enjoyable one. So again, what's missing? The obvious thread, the bleedingly obvious one here, can be summed up by Master Shake.
I am 30 or 40 years old and I do not need this.
I'm an adult, targeting 3,500-ish words about a movie for children. But family movies can be enjoyable for all ages. I keep meaning to do a video on Adventure Time, but it keeps getting shunted by other priorities. And I've definitely treasured some family movies from this decade a lot more than the Mario movie. Shout out especially to Sony Pictures here. But I think my age does have something to do with it. I started this video discussing the world of imagination I built up around Mario 64, and to a lesser extent Mario Sunshine and some of the Mario Advance games. I still remember a lot of what I imagined back then because it was new and wondrous. The Mario Bros. Movie is by all objective standards a worthy interpretation of that world, but it's a familiar space to me, like when I visit my parents' place for the holidays. It's comforting, but the memories were forged a long time ago. Now, a last-minute tangent about the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie is to say that there are bad ways to be memorable. I saw it once, on cable, over 20 years ago, and I still remember the feeling of it, if not many of the details. One long session of teenage me being...
What the hell is that?
Memorability and quality are not the same thing. The Mario Bros. Movie brought me this familiarity at the cost of the movie feeling low impact, almost entirely weightless. This is because of my own peculiar fixation on the world of Mario as seen through the lens of Super Mario 64, and if this essay can be anything other than self-reflection about an adaptation of one of my favorite game franchises, it's this. I wonder if some of the disaffection from aging fandom talking heads is due to this familiarity with long-running franchises. Maybe your thing when you were a kid was, like, Spider-Man, and you played with your Spider-Man action figures, and you had different types of Spider-Men, and imagined them meeting each other and going on an adventure, through some kind of Spider-Verse. Maybe another piece of longed-for fandom media arrived. It was exactly what you would have wanted, what you created for yourself, and was completely forgettable because of that. Final notice I write this was the reveal of the movie poster for the Mario Galaxy movie today, that Fox McCloud will have some kind of cameo, and man, it's like they're going for more of what I spent idle time imagining in my childhood, this time of the Smash Brothers cast living in some kind of Big Brother-esque existence between matches. I'm pretty confident that the Mario Galaxy movie will be equally weightless, but damned if I'm not equally confident that I'm going to see it anyway. Peace. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like and subscribe before you go tearing into me in the comments for what I got wrong about the Mario timeline. Thanks again.